You know, today when I did that reflection video where I look at how the first couple of days of the MLS's back tournament has gone, I forgot to mention how some of these games have been incredibly unpredictable. And that if there is one big advice that I will give to people that are going to tune in to these MLS's back tournament is that you do not bet in these games. Because some of these games you would think for sure that that team is not going to lose or drop points against a lesser quality kind of team, and then they did that. And it was the case in this morning game between Atlanta versus FC Cincinnati, where everybody wrote FC Cincinnati off after that 4-0 loss against Columbus. I even wrote them off too and say that there's just no way in the world they are going to get anything out of this tournament, and I'll be shocked if they got a win in this tournament. So when I found out this morning that FC Cincinnati beat Atlanta, I was definitely shocked to see that happen. Although when I saw how the game, of course, played out, I kind of realized why Atlanta lost this game, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they were down a man for majority of this game. Now, in the first 20 minutes, it was a very scrappy start from both teams, which this is going to be a theme for most of these 9 a.m. games, where these games are definitely not going to feature a lot of fireworks, and it seemed like most of the games in the morning teams are these players seems to be a little bit drowsy and doesn't seem like they have really woke up whatsoever, and that's why there isn't really a lot of energy to the game and a lot of quality in the first couple of minutes or even in the first half of the game. Then in the 26th minute, as I mentioned, Atlanta, of course, would eventually find himself going down to 10 men, and it would be Marooney, the one that, of course, got sent off after he had his second yellow. Atlanta had a lot of players in this game that got yellow card, and when you have that many players that got yellow card in this game and made some of those reckless kind of challenge, it's not surprising eventually they were going to go down a man, and that in this game at the end of it they actually went down to 9 men at the end of all of this. Now the finishing from both teams was absolutely dreadful, and that despite the fact that FC Cincinnati had a man up, you wouldn't know that they actually had a man up with the way that they didn't really look threatened at all going forward on the attack, and that there was a couple of times that Atlanta could have got the opening goal of this game. One of those moments came right on the stroke of halftime when it looked like Atlanta had a penalty after Barco was brought down in the box, but they go to VAR and they actually overruled this penalty not because of the foul in the box, but it was because Barco was in an offside position when the ball was played toward him. And I gotta say, that was a very, very marginal offside call. And if anything, I kind of disagree with that call because, again, I don't feel like that was clear and obvious to see that he was just offside like that. But as I said before in this tournament and pretty much throughout the past MLS season when VAR was introduced, clear and obvious is basically a judgment call now, and that you just if you're a team that are looking to benefit or hope that you don't get cursed by VAR, you just gotta pray that the clear and obvious judgment call is gonna be in your favorite. And unfortunately for Atlanta, it wasn't in their favorite this time. Now in the second half, as I said, FC Cincinnati, they don't really look like they got any clear-cut chances despite the fact that they were being a man up. Although they did kind of start look a little bit threatened later in the game. And in the 60th minute, Guzan denied Yaya Kupo for the opening goal of the game. Eventually, they did get the opening goal of the game in the 76th minute when Frankie Amaya scores from Rekitan for his first ever MLS goal. Very wonderful full goal that was from Amaya, to able to shoot that one from about 20 yards out. And just like that, FC Cincinnati finally got the goal that they've been searching throughout the game. And then late in the game, another Atlanta player would get sent off, and this time it will be Williams, the one that got sent off. ESPN is definitely going to be in a little bit of a trouble after they decided to not censor Williams' reaction. Like, Williams, when he found out that he got that red card via VAR, he basically dropped the F-bomb, and ESPN didn't censor that. And that, yeah, we've seen this happen a couple of times before, where networks unfortunately forget to censor these explicit words. But again, in all seriousness, I don't really care if they censor or not, and that you knew that in this kind of tournament, especially with no fans, and since we can pretty much hear everybody voices from the players and the manager, you're going to eventually hear a couple of explicit words that shouldn't be found in the network. But at the end of the day, FC Cincinnati got the crucial 3 points that definitely surprised a lot of people. And in terms of shots in this game, they had 12 shots compared to 8 that Atlanta has. Both teams had 3 shots on goal. Both teams had 4 shots off target. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Atlanta has. And for Atlanta, I mean, I think after what we saw from the first 2 games, not only it's clear that they miss Joseph Martinez, but they are kind of in trouble right now. Because if this is kind of the way that Atlanta is going to be play, even after this tournament is going to be over, boy, they are going to be in deep trouble. And that I can't believe I'm going to say this, but they might not actually make the playoffs if they keep playing like this once the MLS's back tournament is going to be over and we're going back to the regular season. And I know it's crazy to say that, and watch how in a couple of months time they're going to prove me wrong, and somehow in some way they will make the playoffs and just pretty much prove me wrong going back to the statement of what I just said right now. But yeah, moving on in terms of the next match is the Canadian Classique. So basically, Toronto FC and Montreal must have watched the Vancouver game, and they probably thought, you know what? That's so cute that you decided to have some defensive lapse in that game and decided to play no defense whatsoever, because we're gonna do exactly the same thing in this game. Yeah, in the first half there was no defense that was played whatsoever. And this firework all started in the 7th minute when Larea scores from Pozuelo to give Toronto a 1-0 lead. Then Kyoto scores from Marcel, who I thought that was completely against the run of play, because Toronto, for the first 15 minutes or so, or at least leading up to this goal, they looked like they were by far the better team in this game. Then Aquinola scores from Pozuelo and Piatti to give TFC the lead back. Only 13 minutes later, they concede a penalty after Mavinga, of course, unfortunately brought down one of the impact player, and Taider was able to convert that penalty, and it's 2-2 after just 37 minutes in this game. But wait, just 20 seconds later, Aquinola would score his second goal from Pozuelo, and it's 3-2 TFC after 37 minutes and 40 seconds. And I actually missed this Aquinola goal because I was actually just kind of look on the MLS Reddit stream to see some of the reaction. And next thing you know, once I get back in terms of the game, it was 3-2, and I was wonder how in the world did TFC actually make it 3-2 that quick? Oh, they literally scored straight from the kickoff, and Montreal just made a classic schoolboy error of the fact that you know you're gonna always be the most vulnerable after you score, and they didn't get the memo during that point. And like I said, defending was really an option in this game. And there was a chance that we actually almost got to 3-3 in halftime, because in the 43rd minute, Harry Banks actually put a header that was off the post. And can you imagine if this game was at 3-3 at halftime? Like, everyone would just basically be out of air to see what exactly is going to happen in the second half. And that I won't be surprised a lot of people will predict that this game not only is going to be the highest scoring game in the MLS is back tournament, but it could be on verge of the highest scoring game ever in MLS history. Now, in the second half, the good news is the defending started to look a lot more respectable, and that both teams started to be a little bit more organized, because I have a feeling at the halftime talk, Thierry Henry and Greg Vanny must be yelling his defenders and just ripping them in shreds with the way that they defended in the first half. But there were still a couple of chances. One of them came in the 55th minute when Piatti's shot was punched away from Diop. And then in the 75th minute, Montreal almost had another chance to make it 3-3 when Jackson Hamel had a free header that, of course, just headed wide. And then in the 82nd minute, Aquinola, who, I'll tell you what, this kid, he is definitely on fire in this tournament. And if he can keep this up, I won't be surprised he's going to get a call from Greg Berhalter and potentially be a starter or be a player that could have a big future for the U.S. men's national team, because he completes the hat trick in this goal that he scored from De Leon and Westberg. Yeah, Westberg actually got an assist in this goal sequence, and that this is one of the rare time a goalkeeper was on the assist chart too. But going back to Akinola, he's now at 5 goals in this tournament after he got the brace earlier, and this kind of also will be very interesting to see what's going to happen when Josie Altidore does come back, because with Akinola being so hot right now, I would be very surprised if Greg Vanney decided to not put Akinola in the starting 11 and just insert Josie Altidore back in there, unless if they decided to put both of them up front in the number 9, which is always an option. But something tells me I think Greg Vanney would like to just play with one striker, and that I won't be surprised going forward, even if Josie Altidore is going to be back healthy. Akinola probably is going to continue to lead the line, because this kid looks unstoppable so far in this tournament. And who would have believed that coming into this tournament, this guy would be the one that's leading the Golden Boot race and could potentially be the MVP heading into this tournament. Now, Montreal did get a consolation in the 94th minute as TFC unfortunately commits a penalty, and guess who commits that penalty? Yep, it's Laurent Ciman. And I knew as soon as he got subbed in, TFC fans must be on on the edge of their seat, because they saw what happened in that last game against DC United, and they probably are absolutely livid the fact that Vanney are making the same mistake that he did in that DC game. And in some way he kind of did make another mistake with the way that Ciman once again commit a penalty that eventually led to Montreal third goal that tied our score. But thankfully, because of Akinola hat-trick heroic, TFC was able to win 4-3 against Montreal in a crazy Canadian Classique. In terms of shots in this game, despite the fact that there was a lot of goals in this game, there wasn't really a lot of shots from both of these teams. 12 shots compared to 8 that Montreal has. Both teams had 6 shots on goal, 5 shots off target compared to 1 that Montreal has. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that the Montreal Impacts has. And, for TFC, I know Greg Vanney is going to be very pleased with his attack, but something tells me he is still very concerned about that defense. That's now 5 goals that TFC defense have gave up so far in this tournament, and you cannot do this every single day where you expect your attack to bail you out after the defense just look absolute hot garbage. And for Thierry Henry, he must be going absolutely nuts at his players. I mean, I know in the last game he wants his player to be more committed in this game and to show why they of course belong in this team. And I don't think that's 4-3 loss that they suffer against their hated rival is gonna help those players to prove that help Thierry Henry to prove that they are the right fit for him coaching this team going forward. But yeah, moving on into the last game of today is the Columbus Crew versus the Redbulls, which the Crew got a 2-0 win. And I'll tell you what, the Crew right now, I don't think they are a dark horse team anymore. They look like a team that I think are clearly now the favorites heading into the remaining of this tournament, because in this first 2 games, they have looked very, very impressive. In the first half, Zardes almost had a chance to give the Crew a 1-0 lead, as his first chance was a free header, but unfortunately he hits it wide. Eventually he did get the opening goal for the Crew in the 22nd minute when he scored from Santos and Caden to give them a 1-0 lead. And then the Crew had a chance to make it 2-0, and they probably should have made it 2-0 when Etienne somehow, in some way, missed an empty net shot. We've seen a lot of these kind of fail montage of players missing empty net. I have a feeling Etienne horror moment there is going to be part of that funny montage, because Zardes basically lay it to Etienne, who literally had an empty net to shoot. And how in the world he did not put that one away, but instead hit the side netting, I have no idea whatsoever. And I think when they of course did that mid game interview after the water break, you can clearly tell that Caleb Porter was absolutely frustrated the fact that his team was not up to nothing, and are still kind of shocked the way that Etienne just missed such a wide open chance like that. But the good news for the Crew, it didn't really kind of come back to haunt them. In fact, they had a chance to make it 2-0 again when Santos hit an absolute rocket that Jensen was able to just tip it off the post. In the second half, they did eventually make it 2-0, and it's none other than Zalarian, who, I said it, in the beginning, I thought this kid is going to be a guy that you should definitely watch out for, and right now he looked like he is the real deal, and that Columbus, when they paid $7.5 million to get him, it seemed like that is worth every single dollar with the way that he's been playing. And he, of course, scored that from Etienne, so in some way, Etienne kind of redeemed himself from that horror moment by getting on the assist chart, although I have a feeling he'd rather be on the goal scoring chart rather than on the assist chart after this game. The Redbulls, they just cannot do anything on the attack, and part of that has to do with the fact that the Crew defense was absolute solid. I thought Jonathan Mensah was just a complete rock in that defense, and that it seems like he was just everywhere whenever the Redbulls are on the attack, and they just cannot get through him whenever he is on his defensive duty. Then Mukhtar in the 75th minute almost made it 3-0, and this would probably be a good nomination for goal of the tournament, as he tried to do a very cheeky chip over the head of Janssen, but unfortunately it hits the post. And what's so cheeky about this chip was the goalkeeper wasn't even off his lines that much. Like this chip looked like it was just a cheeky dink that was trying to loop over the goalkeeper heads, but unfortunately it hits the post. And I guess for Janssen, he's probably the most relieved man, the fact that that one hits the post, because that would have been a very embarrassing moment, seeing that nasty of a chip to be able to end up into the back of the net. Now, speaking of goalkeeper, late in the game, Eloy Room actually was down on the ground, and he was really limping for the last couple of minutes of this game. I'm not quite sure what happened to him. Not quite sure, is it really cramp that is the issue, or did he when he tried to dive to make a save throughout this game, that he probably injured himself a little bit, but he was definitely shaken up, and that when he was shaken up during that point, the Crew was out of substitution, and I thought we were going to see kind of like a Kyle Walker kind of situation where an outfield player was going to be in goal. Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to see kind of a Kyle Walker moment there, and that he did actually kept playing, and that I think the decision of him kind of kept playing was mainly because since his defense is so solid and that the Redbulls hasn't really done anything, he doesn't really need to do much. Instead, just nurse that injury for the last couple of minutes. I mean, if the Redbulls would have been better going forward and really test Eloy Room, I have a feeling Caleb Porter might think about polling him and just go for an outfield player for the last couple of minutes, even though they're going to be a man down for the last couple of minutes with this 2-0 lead. But in the end, the Crew, of course, was able to hold on, and that Eloy Room was able to just nurse that injury until the final whistle. As the shots in this game, Columbus had 11 shots compared to 7 that the Redbulls had. 3 shots on goal compared to none that the Redbulls had. 7 shots off target compared to 5 that the Redbulls had. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 2 that the Redbulls had. Possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that the Redbulls had. And as I said, this performance by the Columbus Crew has really proved me that they are definitely in heavy contention of potentially making it all the way to this tournament final, and that they just look like a very dangerous team after the first two two games. Now, obviously, a lot of things can still change in terms of this tournament, and we don't know the health of Eloy Rome and whether if he can go in the next couple of games. But as I said, this crew team, they look like a very dangerous team. While the Redbulls, yeah, you know, that Atlanta games, it seemed like that has looked more and more kind of like a fluke with the way that how they play in this game, because they got absolutely dominated by the crew in this one, even though the scoreline doesn't tell you the fact that the Redbulls wasn't really in this game, and they were by far second best when they faced the Columbus crew in this one. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of tonight. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games? And tomorrow, we're going to unfortunately have a dilemma where there's going to be two games that is going to be kicking off at the same time. So I'm going to try my best in terms of trying to watch both of these games simultaneously. But don't be surprised, tomorrow the review is going to be a little bit shorter, because those two games, I'm not going to write as much detail as I would when I watch these games on live. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.